morning. Welcome back to the Done Deal Show. I'm joined by Dean Jones. Morning, my friend. How are you? Good. Seems like a lot's going on now in the transfer market. It's been a while since you've been on. Nice Christmas, nice New Year and everything else in the meantime.
Yeah, very good, mate. Yeah, very good. Kids obviously was chaos. Pleased to say nurseries are back open again now and stuff, so that's good news. Ready for the transfer window. I think that's why they reopened, so I can just focus on getting some stories.
I bet, yeah. Well, they shut my kids' nursery for 2 weeks. I was like, that's 2 weeks where like every minute of every day I've got to look at. I love like handing them over. Have fun. It's more have fun. I can relax now. I don't have to worry about where you're putting They're not asking for a biscuit every 5 minutes. It's nice.
Exactly.
No, it's really good. I don't have to hear the word. My little one's just like talking quite fluently, and all he runs around the house shouting is tumble. He comes into my office when I'm working, handing me the TV remote saying tumble. Which wants tumble on the TV. So,
oh man, I know all about it. And actually one of them just walked in, so that shows the littlest one who hasn't started nursery yet is just wandered in the room. So he's being removed as we speak. But there you go. The madness continues apparently.
Exactly. Mine are always on their way in. But lots going on in the transfer market, as we say, new deals for certain players, exits, and stuff like that. So there's a lot to delve into. I want to start first of all with Chelsea, really, because the fans seem a little bit. Some seem quite frustrated that they're obviously pulling out of the Lucas Digne move. A lot thought they would go for that when it was announced that Chilwell needed surgery. Emerson might be being brought back. There's a lot of talk about the centre-backs. Will Christian sign? Will Aspie sign? Antonio Rudiger is an interesting one. What's the latest with him? Because, of course, there has been rumours of some fairly big offers from some other Premier League clubs and some teams abroad.
Yeah, I think Chelsea fans are like patiently waiting for some good news on Rudiger, but I don't see it. I don't think that the situation's changed much at the moment. From what I understand, he's just been waiting to see what offers arrive on the table for him. Nothing's really changed with Chelsea. Obviously, the initial offer that they made wasn't a particularly high one, considering that he knew as a free agent he could bring in big money for next season. And while he was realistic about the fact that, they're obviously not going to offer as much as a team that's signing you for free, he was hoping that his value to the team would be reflected a little better than it was. And obviously there have been issues in the past anyway at the club, as we've spoken about, as to why he might not have been completely happy for his entire stay at Chelsea. So he just really was keeping his ears open as to what's out there. And to be honest, I'd say he's the most coveted player in Europe right now because everybody, all the Champions League elite, want a defender like Rudiger, and they know that he's gettable. So he's really just waiting to see what the best proposal is, and then figure out, what's the best next step for his career.
There's a lot of. I keep seeing sort of reports of Chelsea and Manchester United. Most Chelsea fans, whether it's they're desperate for that not to happen, or they really believe it, is almost a bit irrelevant to me. Do you think there's a possibility that they could offer him a good enough deal for him to switch allegiances within England?
I mean, their interest is real. At the moment, it's not at the same level as the foreign clubs. They're not as far along with looking into any negotiation. But obviously, we've seen in the summer, like when good opportunities are presented to Man United, they consider them, and it doesn't take anyone with too much football intelligence to figure out that Man United could really do with a centre back like Antonio Rudiger. So on a free, it is obviously a good opportunity for them to consider what they could offer him, and as a result of that, they will do that. I think Rudiger is open to staying in England at the right, if the right project is there, but I don't think like he's desperate to stay in England. Equally, I don't think he would consider himself so loyal to Chelsea that he couldn't consider that. Tottenham are in for him as well. I don't think they'll get him, but they have made a very good offer. Obviously, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG too. So, it's a fantastic situation to find himself in. There's absolutely no reason he would rush into this at all because, as a footballer of his age and of his talent, it's kind of the chance of a lifetime to pick exactly what you want from your career.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense to me, and I don't think he'd pick Tottenham based on. Again, it's always about money. Money plays a big part in this, doesn't it? But you've also got the element of Champions League football. That could end up sort of delaying his decision until much later on in the year. I know a lot of people seem to feel like there's going to be an announcement at some point soon. I did hear last week that he's held some positive talks with Chelsea in terms of sort of renewing things. A rumor I heard that Real Madrid didn't actually offer as much money to him as first thought. Sort of the £400,000 a week were maybe a little bit or quite a bit kind of overstated, maybe by the agent of Antonio Rudiger. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens there. Jules Kounde, though, of course, linked kind of, I don't know whether as a replacement or a supplement to some of these centre-backs that are looking to leave. It was a deal that nearly happened in the summer, but kind of got weird towards the end. Almost a lot of sort of reports that Sevilla kind of upped the ante towards the end. It was kind of thought that Zuma would leave. Once that deal got done, Kounde would come in. Is that something Chelsea are pursuing right now, or is that more of a summer move that Chelsea fans could expect?
They're still on the case, and they have been ever since that deal fell through. They haven't lost interest in him. They obviously wanted him because they could foresee problems coming up this season. Probably not to the extent that they are coming up, but they knew that there was a possibility that bad things might happen in their defence. And if you already had Kounde on board, then you could relax a little bit. They still believe that they're in the strongest position to sign him. I think, from what I'm told, it's more of a case that they would look to strike an agreement now for the summer. I don't think they're expecting it to happen now. I think Kounde would be open to it happening now. We also have to consider the situation that Sevilla are in. They are doing very well in La Liga this season. They've got an opportunity to put themselves in the title race. At the same time, one of their other defenders is being linked with Newcastle very heavily as well, and they certainly can't afford to lose both those guys. I noticed this morning that Liverpool were being linked to Kounde as well. As far as I'm aware, Liverpool aren't looking to invest, this kind of money in this window right now, and I'd be very surprised if they were to leapfrog Chelsea and to sign Kounde, because things had gone so far on a personal level, and Kounde's kind of got his head around the fact that, like, once he leaves, like, Chelsea's his next club. So yeah, it's something that Chelsea are looking forward to concluding at some point, but they've still got problems to solve beyond that, because they've got these other defensive issues with Christensen and Azpilicueta, and I don't think they really foresaw that. I think that they thought that Azpilicueta would be quite relaxed about the situation of waiting until closer to the end of the season, and I don't think he is that happy about having to wait. I think a lot of the squad members are very surprised that they haven't moved to put him on a new deal before now, because he's captain, he's a leader, he's got the experience, he's got the talent still. Like, I'm not saying he's at his peak, but he's still very good for them. Christensen, I feel like if he's going to really push the boat out and try and get a massive contract, then I feel like they see him as more dispensable. But we'll see, because at the end of the day, they're still going to need numbers back there. And so if Christensen leaves as well, then it's another hole they have to fill. And while they are finding some of their own young players to step up, when you're trying to compete for the Premier League title and the Champions League, you can't really have that big of a drop off. And that's probably what some of the fans are worried about with the left back situation, is that Chilwell's gone, and I understand that, like, you won't see Emerson as being up to that same level, and if that's what ends up coming in, then your squad's not as strong. So those are the considerations that Chelsea have to make right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it took even rivals by surprise with the Aspi Christensen. You had Aspi Christensen and Rudiger all kind of and ahhing over new deals. You then had the fullbacks that got injured. You of course had the Lukaku madness of an interview that he did, and all of that just kind of married around the poor form that essentially feels like it's taken Chelsea out of a title race. And it was almost for 12 months, everything just felt like sunshine and rainbows and perfection at Chelsea under Tuchel, and then you suddenly out of nowhere have this big sort of, like, it felt like a mini implosion in many ways, and it really seems to fit that my focus is fans. That's what we do. We talk to fans every day, and there does seem to be a real like frustration, if that makes sense, that this is kind of happening to them, and they thought their title race was on and everything else. And it's 11 days into the transfer window, and just nothing seems to be happening from their point of view. And now they're linked with bringing Emerson back, and they're like, why? Like, let's just go and buy someone. But I suppose they know what they're doing. Chelsea, they're a pretty well-run club and they win trophies. So it may just be a case of sitting back and waiting and everything else. Viewers, make sure you're hitting that like button for us this morning on the Done Deal Show. Any questions you've got, get your super chats in. Member chats as well. Any questions or any transfers that you want any updates on from Dean this morning. A little bit further north in London, Tottenham. Interestingly, fairly similar to the Chelsea fan base for different reasons. Antonio Conte came in, and there was a lot of talk of going big in January. So far, the only real strong link I've personally seen has been Adama Traore to come play fullback for about £20 million. What's going on at White Hart Lane, and are there any potential incomings, and what should Spurs fans expect in the next kind of 20 days or so?
It's a really difficult time to kind of overhaul your squad, which is what Tottenham need. So they're having to really consider not just the level of player that comes in, but the personality as well. It's something that they're very keen to get right at this point, and make sure that this is the beginning of a next phase that is successful. That's the one thing they haven't had. For all the relative success they've had in the last few years, they still haven't had actual success, and they think a big part of that is making sure that there's a togetherness in this side, which Antonio Conte is trying to build. Adama Traore is a genuine target. They're trying to negotiate terms and a deal with Wolves right now. Chelsea are also interested in signing Adama Traore, though. They haven't gone particularly far with it, certainly not as far along the road as Spurs are yet. But Chelsea, while their priority right now is obviously to fix the issues at left back, they also have a problem on the right side. That's why someone like Serginho Dest has been so strongly considered, because he can play on both sides. They looked at Kieran Trippier as well, because he can play on both sides. But now, Adama is a player that they've admired for quite a long time, and there'll be some competition there from Tottenham, even though Tottenham are reasonably confident that they will conclude a deal for Traore. Spurs, looking at a left-sided centre-back and a forward player as well, but not had too much progress with that so far from what I've heard. And I mean, they're certainly working on things in the background, and it's, I think pretty well highlighted that they tend to have a long list of kind of like 9-10 names that they then begin work on, start reaching out to agents, check out the relative availability, check out the value, check out the contract situations, and start to whittle them down. And they'll talk to the final 3 or 4 at the same time and see which one starts to stand out as the strongest. But at the same time, they're obviously got issues with outgoings. Steven Bergwijn is somebody that they're obviously willing to let go, but on top of that, Ndombele and Dele Alli are available if anyone wants them. I'm not sure who does, to be honest, and I'm not sure that they'll be on terms that particularly help Tottenham at this moment in time. I think that's probably an issue that hasn't been spoken about enough. It's one thing like trying to get rid of these players, but it's also on terms that are actually going to help the club. And there's no point just sending them out on loan if you haven't brought in anyone that's going to pad out the squad as effectively as they might. I mean, people might not think Ndombele is as effective at padding out a squad, but we've just been through a time when clubs have been hit by COVID and stuff, and you've seen like a side get decimated and be left struggling to fill subs benches and stuff like that. So it's something that clubs are having to consider. What's the point of letting these players out unless we can actually replace them adequately?
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. It seems like so much is going on, and I think what's really triggering fans of particular clubs is Villa and Newcastle, because they seem to be getting business. I look at Philip Coutinho, and of course, the Gerrard relationship is a big part of that. But that's the kind of a position that if you look at Tottenham, they've never replaced Christian Eriksen, like a creative attacking midfield player with some flair. And fans, we're very basic. It's just, well, if Villa are doing it, why can't we? No one. I've had some of the world's best financial experts on explaining how net spend isn't real, and you still get Dave from Clacton that goes, "I say nonsense, it's definitely real. I read it in the Sun." It's sort of like, nah, mate. Like, listen to you hear people break down. I know that Tottenham are generally speaking looking at a much higher caliber of player, so it's harder to get those deals done in January. But of course, to us fans, like it always hits a little bit deeper in relation to that. We always want it to be done in a very, very different way indeed. Viewers, we are going to be talking Arsenal and their potential big move for, I always say his name wrong, Dusan Vlahovic later on in the show as well. Make sure like buttons are being smashed. You're subscribing to the Football Terrace. What's his here? Traore 25 still has time. He can come something if he finds the right manager. Listen, he might do great at fullback. That's what where everyone wants to play him. A bit of a under Conte, a bit of Victor Moses vibe. That's what's needed there. A lot of people in the comments there's a thing on the terrace at the minute calling Jurgen Klopp Karen Klopp after all of his moaning across social media and everything else. But we're delving into that later on today, ladies and gents, on the Bet Victor Top 6 show with Liverpool's supposed pending investigation that may happen according to the Athletic. So stay tuned to the terrace. We're going to talk about that later. Manchester United, Dean, not really in a good space right now. Interestingly, Rangnick has the best record since Fergie after his first 7 games as manager in terms of results. I was looking at that last night. I was intrigued to see what it looked like. The highest win percentage, but the team's playing awfully. He's come out with a comment this morning, last night, which I've just seen, and all the Ollie outers and people are going mental because he's just said that Tomine is an academy boy. His energy is amazing. He now's also starting to score goals. He's got great leadership skills. I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years if he could be the captain of Man United. So United fans have gone from thinking Rangnick was going to bring this new era in. I love McTominay as a United player, but he's sort of talking about him like he's Iniesta in the middle. And I think a lot of United fans feel frustrated. We're linked with a few players in. Denis Zakaria. There's that Julian Alvarez we've been linked with. But Anthony Martial's exit appears to be quite pivotal in anything that may be coming in. Is he likely to leave Manchester United this month?
He's hoping so. But he's always had this fear that he'll be priced out of it and just be left on the fringes for another 5 or 6 months. And he can't really afford for that to happen for the sake of his own career. He's obviously fed up with the situation. I think every time he thinks he's about to make a breakthrough, it doesn't work out. He finally told the club, they had the face-to-face, and he told him he wants to leave. They said he could, but as he feared, really, it's going to come down to somebody taking his wages. United put him on these terms. They should really have to eat up some of it, I think. But let's see what's out there. Sevilla at the moment aren't obviously finding an agreement. One thing that's interesting is the Juventus situation. This might change things for Man United. It might open up an avenue that hasn't been there. Chiesa has just suffered a really bad injury, and as a result of that, Juve are very likely to have to bring in a new forward. They've started to turn around their season recently, but Chiesa is absolutely pivotal to Juve. All their best performances tend to come when he's there. They miss his dynamism and stuff like that, and his style of play. So they're having to look now at alternatives as to how can they replicate what Chiesa brought to that team. And look, I'm not saying that we've seen any signs of Anthony Martial being dynamic, but he can be. This is the player that Man United thought they had. Juve have shown interest in Anthony Martial before. I'm told there is still some interest there. So potentially in the coming days, they'll sound out United about the possibility of signing Martial and what basically they would have to do to get him. I think they'll obviously try and look at the shortest, a short-term deal and make it as cheap as possible. But if United can make it work for them, it might not be the worst move for anyone.
No, and I get that. And I think Man United should fall on their sword on this, slightly on the money, because Anthony Martial's wages make him one of the best paid number 9s in the world. And he isn't one of the best number 9s in the world in terms of his form. And we can see that by the teams that are looking at him. It's not as though all the big Premier League teams and all the big European teams are clambering over him, if that makes sense. And that's with respect to Martial. But he does have ability. And if he finds confidence, if he he's given a free run, no disrespect, we've seen Tammy Abraham look really good. Like Tammy Abraham looks a much better player in Italy than he looks in England. So maybe that's certain players are suited even more to other nations. And I kind of look at Martial and I think this could be another problem if we end up keeping him. There was a big kind of fallout in the dressing room towards the board when they didn't allow Romero to go last summer. There was almost an air of, why would you do that to him? Let him go and play football. My fear is that we keep Martial, and I'm not suggesting that he's a bad apple, he's going to cause problems, but he has got friends in the dressing room that are going to look at it and think, oh, he's a good player, he wants to play football. You're now going to pay all these wages if he doesn't go. Instead, you could let him go. He'd have been happier, we'd be happier, and you were only paying 30 grand, 40 grand a week of his wages. It seems weird to just not do anything, and United could be causing a real big problem for themselves in that regard. They could. Could you see anyone coming into Man United this month? A number of midfielders have been linked. Do you think that's plausible?
I think it's unlikely. I don't think they have concrete plans to sign anybody. I think, again, like we're in this situation whereby if they were to stumble across a fantastic opportunity, they might do it. Ruben Neves was linked again recently. That we have to take that seriously. This is the second window in a row that United are looking towards Neves. I think at this stage of his career, the age that he's at, it'd be a fantastic signing if they could do it. I don't think it would be that expensive either. I think they get him at a reasonable deal, and I think that he would change the tempo of Man United's game. They're definitely interested in him. I'm not wholly convinced they'll get it done this month. Obviously, we've seen, the same old names linked to them as well. Denis Zakaria, like you mentioned, Tchouaméni's, still does the rounds every now and then too. Haven't seen the Rice stuff too much anymore, and that's basically because he's too expensive in every regard. So I do think it's something they're looking at. The other thing to bear in mind, I mean, do you think when Rangnick came in, there were some reports that he was going to be given £100 million for January? I mean, very unrealistic. He's the interim manager. Yes, there's the talk and the option of him staying on as a consultant. I mean, if the way United have been playing and the way that the squad are feeling about him, I'm not sure he's going to be staying on as an advisor to the club for very long. And I think that he'll be looking to pursue other things in a coaching capacity as soon as he can. If this doesn't work out for him, why are United going to let somebody that hasn't really, positively changed this side start making signings and add another layer of issues to the problems that might not fit longer term with whoever it is that comes in the summer, who has a completely different idea of how to solve the problem of Man United never winning anything. I just don't think it's a great idea to go into the transfer window right now unless you get a brilliant opportunity on a very cheap deal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of Ragnick isn't an elite level manager. And no Man United fan ever thought he would be. We thought our football would improve. So we're all wrong on that. I'm interested to see what he could do at director of football level. But it does feel like a big overhaul's needed. But there needs to, my fear is that there isn't a plan, as you say. We buy 2 players in January that fit the way Ralph's ideology of football works. But then we bring in Ten Hag, who looks at those 2 players and says, they're not for me. That's been the way Man United have operated for 9 years now, and I have that same fear as a United fan inside. It isn't great, and when he's coming out and talking, as you say, McTominay could become this club's captain. There's a lot of United fans that are very fearful about how things are kind of operating at the minute. Players not being able to leave. There's all sorts of problems there. I mean, you're looking at the Rashfords of this world and Brunos. They look like they've never played football before right now. So it's it's a mad. Ronaldo was dropped last night. First 15 minutes we looked great. So he told you, Ronaldo. was the problem. And then we persist. I keep saying this to Man United fans. You can drop who you want. We're going to look the same. You can bring back in who you want. We're going to look the same. This is a mentality issue at the club. It isn't about individual personnel. But again, that won't wash because people just want to have a go at players they dislike.
Yeah.
But there we go. We do have some super chats we're going to go to in a minute. Slight time restraints this morning because we went live a little late because of my internet issues at home. But the big news everybody's interested in at the minute, the kind of real shining light in the transfer market is the potential Vlahovic move to Arsenal. Talks yesterday of the total package maybe costing £150 million with transfer fees, wages, big agent fees reported in that as well. What is the latest on Arsenal's pursuit, and how likely is it that they make like a big official bid and a push and maybe bring him into the football club?
Yeah, I think Arsenal are very serious about this. They've been exploring it just to see how they can jump the queue in this window. There wasn't a strong feeling at the beginning of Jan that Vlahovic would move right now. I think that Fiorentina would cash in right now because they'll get more money. But from Vlahovic's point of view, he has to be totally convinced of the project. He still has a desire to become top goal scorer in Italy this season, which he could quite easily do if he could carry on the form he showed in 2021. And of course, he's very aware that the fact that there would be more elite clubs in for him in the summer when they've kind of got their finances together a bit. And, Juve were most heavily linked. Fiorentina, not particularly interested in selling any more players to Juve. They've snapped up a few of their best talent over the years, and it hasn't gone down very well with fans. So they want to kind of avoid that. But it's a tricky one because Arsenal have really got to convince Vlahovic personally that this is the move for him. I mean, financially, they're willing to go all out. They're willing to pay, the premium that it will cost to get him now rather than in the summer. But Mikel Arteta's got to do his bit here because I think he's going to have to talk him into the move. At the moment, Vlahovic is not convinced that the Premier League is the place to be going right now, never mind Arsenal. And if it is Arsenal, like, he has to be like, well, where's your path into Europe? I want to be involved in, the biggest games in football over the coming years. And, they haven't been happening at the Emirates recently. Look, Mikel Arteta managed to convince Martin Odegaard to sign, and, it was, personal one-to-one chats that sold the project to him. I think if you see what Arteta's been doing recently and the fact that he's put so much emphasis on young, hungry talent, that will help. But, Vlahovic, he honestly has the world at his feet, almost quite literally. He's so good. I've been watching him for a long time now. And I remember seeing him before he was even in the team. I saw him playing a pre-season in America, and I'd never heard of him. I think he was wearing number 99 or something. And I said to one of the lads I was with, he only played a half, and I said, "Who is that? Who is he?" And they said, "Oh, his name's Vlahovic. You'll probably hear of him in the next couple of years. He's pretty good." Yeah, he has proved to be pretty good. He's absolute goal machine now. I'm not sure there's a more confident forward in the whole of Europe. If Arsenal get him, it's an absolutely unbelievable signing, and it will really be a statement. But there's still work to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the intent is I always try and look at it from I think there's a lot of PR that goes on with football clubs. Everybody wants to avoid embarrassment. For instance, you look at Man United with Denis Zakaria. I believe they've had conversations like a lot of clubs. I believe they've probably put in one of those kind of via an intermediary. What if we offered this? Do you think he would be interested? Could we get the deal done? Types of offers. Whenever I then see particular journalists say no official bid as it stands, that tells me something's happened, but they don't want to make it official. Because if you put out in the press that you're going to go in, you're all in for this, and then he picks Liverpool instead of Man United, it's a PR disaster. What's interesting about Arsenal is they are normally PR central, but it feels like the briefs are very much coming from the club. It feels as though it's almost like they want to put this out there to try and as you say, it's the part of the charm offensive to try and bring him to the club. That this is how much we want you. We're prepared to put everything on the line. And if they do drop this sort of, I read something this morning. It's like that 150 million. It's 85 million in transfer fees. It could be north of £200,000 a week in terms of like wages. As you say, that's an astronomical statement. He is a very talented player, and it could change the course of things massively for Arsenal. So it's going to be very intriguing in the next few weeks. I mean, this week could be important. Beat Liverpool at Anfield, beat Tottenham in the North London derby, and these things could certainly go a long way to bringing it forward. Smith here says, "Morning, lads. It's the nicest way you've ever said hello to me before, Smith, ever. You're normally on my case, but thank you." He says, just how good is Vlahovic? I think Dean's answered that there. I get a little nervous when we start offering 21-year-old kids who haven't proven much, huge wages and signing.
I think he's proven himself. He's just had like literally the most prolific year anyone's ever had in Serie A. Like 2021 was his year. He was genuinely brilliant. Obviously, it's only 1 year, but what can he do more than that? Like the guy's scored every type of goal over the past year that you could have hoped from him. Arsenal fans don't like doubt his ability. You can doubt his fit to the team for sure. Like, I don't think there's any guarantees that he fits in the style of play. And people that I work with think that actually Alex Isak or Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who are also on Arsenal's radar, would actually be a better fit for this team. So that might be the case. But Vlahovic, we can't be doubting his talent. But I think Vlahovic himself is probably like, is that the right club for me? Am I really going to get the chances there to score the goals I need to score, especially early on, to make that move a success? Because, we see so many times, you think Timo Werner was great before he came to Chelsea, and I didn't expect him to, be, I wouldn't say he's bad, but, I thought he'd be better than this. Yeah, I thought he'd be better than this. I really did. I spoke highly. Kai Havertz, I've praised a lot as well before his move, and I still think he'll be great, but he hasn't hit the heights yet that I thought he would. And the same happens with Vlahovic. Well, Arsenal don't really have the fullback options that Chelsea do when it comes up front. Like that Chelsea can move other people around and be like, okay, it doesn't matter. Like we'll stick him in there. I'll stick him there. Arsenal, you can't really do that.
I agree. Matty here is a Chelsea fan, says, is there any truth in a Werner Haaland swap deal?
No, not a swap deal. I think it's going to become plausible that Werner returns to Bundesliga at the end of the season. I think that's something that could happen. But I think they'll keep that very separate from Haaland. I don't believe that will happen, though.
Mr. Jones, quick question. Any thoughts on Mo Salah's upcoming contract situation?
Yeah, it's interesting, the quotes that he's come out with again. Very much a similar message from him as has been in recent months. Is like pushing it all back on Liverpool, saying, look, I want to stay, they've just got to give me what I want. The problem is Liverpool are a bit stuck here because they've just handed out a raft of new contracts to players that are also very important, probably not quite as important as Salah, but very almost. And to break through that barrier again that they've just set with all those new contracts causes them problems going forward. Ultimately, Salah will leave soon if they don't start satisfying him. And I think we should be aware of the fact that he's obviously spoken up his hopes of moving to Spain at some point, playing in La Liga. Real Madrid are obviously going for a big summer. And Barcelona, the way they're talking, I still think they're capable of pretty much anything. That they seem to, they've signed Ferran with no money. They're finding a way to finance that. They got a loan and spread the cost of 50 million euros over 5 years, and they'll deal with it further down the line. They'll get back on track.
Government will pay something off in a few years. Yeah,
so if somebody like Salah says to Barcelona, "I'm here if you want me," like, who knows? Like, I wouldn't rule out, a year's time or something of them finding a way around that. And Liverpool need to avoid that situation opening up. So he's really putting them in a situation here, and fair play to him, because he probably deserves whatever he wants, to be honest.
I hear you on that. And just very quickly here, Dean, any news on Genie to Arsenal?
No, nothing particular on that. I know they're looking at Artur from Juventus. He was a player that Juve were looking to get rid of anyway. I'm not sure how that situation will play out. But Arsenal obviously are looking at midfield options. Wijnaldum should be available. It's all been quite quiet around his camp at the moment. So it might be one that opens up in the next week or so. But at the moment, nothing there. And it's worth bearing in mind that Wijnaldum is on ridiculous money.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely is. Dean, I know you've got to shoot off, Dean. I'm going to stay on the air with the viewers, so stay with us, people. Dean, absolute pleasure, mate, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Cool, no worries, mate.
That doesn't sound right, but yeah.
Mate, it's been said many times.
Take care, Dino. Take care, mate. Thank you very
everyone.
much indeed. Stay with us, people. We're going to take your calls on the show now. So stay with the Football Terrace. Obviously, me and Dean briefed before the show. So any questions you've got, I always let him do his speaking, but I know what's going on as we talk. Any questions you've got. He has mentioned earlier on in the show, my friend, he mentioned Dest and his potential move to Chelsea. It's one that they are looking at. Traore is also another fullback that Chelsea are looking into potentially bringing to Stamford Bridge during this transfer window. Sarim here says, Terry, will Liverpool sign a player again? A player ever? Well, you know, me and Dean spoke about this before the show went live. I was having real connection issues, so I couldn't go live. So I'm very sorry we were late this morning for the Done Deal show with Dean Jones. But essentially, Liverpool Football Club are not very active again in this window. They're not looking to put their money where their mouth is. And I think that reflected massively in why Jurgen Klopp was so frustrated in his press conference yesterday or the day before. He knew the journalist was leading towards a transfer-related question, and he didn't want to answer it. He was frustrated. And I kind of look at it and think to myself, I'm not having a pop here at Jurgen Klopp. It's more FSG. They need to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to this man, because at the moment they're not doing enough. But there we go. I want to give a quick update and a roundup in case you weren't tuning in from the beginning of today's show. Remember, every Tuesday at 9:30 now moving forward, the Done Deal show is back. Dean Jones is now part of the Give Me Sport and Snack Media family, so he'll be here with us to give us all the latest transfer news, contract news, rumors circulating around in the game. Later on this afternoon, me and, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Dean Jones is back. Lee Gunner is back on the show, the Bet Victor show at 6 p.m. as well. And we've got so many big talking points today. So keep your ears to the ground. Stay alert, people, because we've got loads to go through today. Of course, we're going to be previewing Arsenal's massive week with Lee Gunner later, talking at the fallout of Man United's game as well. And on the Bet Victor show, of course, previewing the semi-final games this weekend, starting to build up some noise around the North London derby. We're going to be delving into Karen Klopp and the big news from the Athletic that maybe an investigation is going to be happening in those areas. So make sure you stay with the Terrace today. You have us on notification. Get that done, because we're going live with two more big streams today. Chris Jules says that Vlahovic thumbnail looks very realistic. Top work. Now Arsenal get the deal done ASAP. Thank you very much there, Chris. Now, look, let's do a bit of an overview on what's been said today. Okay, what's really, really important is the first bit of news that we really went through is Rudiger. Talks are ongoing, but nothing at this moment in time has progressed. There's talk of, I was told last week there's been some really positive talks in relation to some really positive talks in relation to a new deal. But Man United and Tottenham are both interested in signing the player, but they're not as far down the line as some of the international clubs that are looking to potentially bring him in. Jules Kounde to Chelsea. There is the potential for that deal to be done in January, but the move to take place in the summer. Chelsea still feel they're ahead of the race in that. There are some mooted reports of other people being interested, but Chelsea certainly leading the race there. On top of that, Spurs really struggling at the moment to get these deals done. Traore is a deal that, again, they're quite far down the line on. There's a sense of confidence at Tottenham Hotspur that they can get that deal over the line this month for around £20 million. But Chelsea Football Club are chasing him also. They're logging into him also. They're logging into him somewhere. They're looking into him also. Martial's exit and Man United buying players. The Martial exit's looking a little bit precarious. The injury to Chiesa at Juve may change things slightly, but it's very much thought that Man United have got to pay some of his salary for him to be moved on. And it's highly unlikely at this moment in time that Manchester United are going to be signing any players. The Vlahovic news was the big talking point today on the show, and Arsenal are going in big. Everything that I have been telling you, that I have been told about this deal is now coming to fruition. Arsenal willing to pay big, big money. They are being bold. They are being bold. They're being even a little bit brash in many ways. They're flashing their cash about, and they are trying to turn the head of Dusan Vlahovic to take him from Fiorentina to Arsenal Football Club. They're trying to beat away competition, and the tactic for me is becoming clearer and clearer and clearer by the day. They show him how much we want him. They show him that even though we're willing to break the bank and beat anybody's offer, nobody else is even batting an eyelid. Are they really as interested in you as we are? And I want to just shout out somebody yesterday. I want to find their name here on Twitter if they are watching here today, because I always like to call people out who give me my flowers. This is to Trickstat, whose tag is hashtag Cronky out. Big Arsenal fan on socials that said, fair play to you, Terry, been spot on from the jump. Mad props and respect to you. And that was after Sammy McBell's story came out in the he's story came out in the Daily Mail about Arsenal looking to break the bank to get this deal done. As we've said all along, there are no guarantees at all that this deal gets completed, but Arsenal are in for him. This deal is active, this deal is on, and Arsenal are trying to get it over the line. A lot of you are asking me to check out Fabrizio's tweet. So let's take a look here. Fabrizio has said Chelsea are trying to offer compensation of around €4 million to recall Emerson. Not easy. Olympic Lyon have already turned down their approach 2 times. Chelsea also have a plan B in the list, and they've scrolled down to that. He hasn't said who that is. Always been the priority. Emerson always been the priority. That's an interesting take. I don't think it is. I think they weren't able to get the Lucas Digne deal done, and now they're saying that's the priority. But there we go. Terry looks like Johnny Sins from, I don't know who that is or what that is, but fair enough. Fair enough. H7 here says, I pray to God we don't get Vlahovic. I don't like him already. Who the F does he think he is? Worth 300k a week. Get out is what H7 thinks. H7 does not want him to be part of their club. Terry, is Vlahovic a certified gunman? Look, he's certainly doing it in Italy. And as Dean already alluded to, Dean's watched him play in the flesh live. There's always the distinct possibility that a player doesn't work out. But there's also the possibility that he goes to another club and is absolute dynamite. And imagine he ends up going to, in the summer, he ends up going to Man City on 150, 200 grand a week, and he's banging in goals for fun. Maybe then Arsenal fans think we should have broke the bank, because look what he's doing. But it is about convincing him. He's not going to cost £150 million in terms of his transfer fee. That is a total overall investment. And the reason that Arsenal have leaked that information, again, it's to show the player publicly, this is how much we want you. The full caboodle, the whole package. We want you, brother. We want you at this football club now. I'm also told this, and I'm going to tell you what I was told the other day, and I have had this confirmed by 3 journalists. Mikel Arteta has spoken directly with the player with permission of Fiorentina twice in the past week. He has spoken directly with the player to try and convince him. Remember, the club and Arsenal and Fiorentina have a very good relationship. They are very up for selling him at the right price. Therefore, permission for him to speak to Arsenal Football Club has been granted. Those talks, I've been told, have happened. They are on the charm offensive massively. They are on the charm offensive massively and trying to get this done and trying to get this over the line. Let's have a little look here. Some of you, more of your comments. Let's have a little look. Hassan here says Vlahovic will undoubtedly be a top world class goal scorer. We just need to strengthen our midfield to continue our fluidity in attack. And that probably is an area that's going to be addressed as well by Arsenal. But sometimes the reason that you're going to prioritize, I spoke about this a lot on the terrace. People always think, again, I don't know what YouTubers or newspapers put this notion into football fans' heads, but get it out your heads. This notion of you should sign your number one priority first. It depends on what happens. The midfielder might be a more pressing matter right now and considered the priority. However, and a big however is if you leave the Vlahovic deal to the summer and go after a midfielder now, you may never get Vlahovic. It may be a case. Sometimes you have to focus on the most important thing up front and first. I've shared the link in the live comment section right now if you want to phone in and have your say on any of these talking points this morning on the Done Deal Show. Of course, we were joined by the brilliant, the wonderful Dean Jones. But I want to hear from you now. You are the most important part of the football terrace. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Let's take a look here at a few more things that are being said. Serim, my brother, says, Terry, do you think Klopp told the press about the false positives on purpose to get the club into trouble? No, I don't think he did that. I don't. No, no, I don't think he did that. We'll see what happens. I was speaking to somebody about it last night, and they said that it's very unlikely, in their opinion, that an investigation will yield much fruit. But it is certainly something that could be getting looked at. It's certainly something that could be getting looked at by the footballing authorities, mainly based on the fact that false positives are highly unlikely, and to have so many in a short space of time, a lot of people are somewhat suspicious about it. Welsh Junior here says, one thing I don't understand is that Arteta always said he shouldn't need to convince any player to join Arsenal. Bro, let me just tell you this now. That's PR press talk. Ignore it. Every single manager will come out with words like this. Ragnick said the other day, we don't ask players to stay at Man United. You should just want to. In the transfer negotiations, they will be asking at times, they'll be begging at times, they'll be convincing at times players to stay. That's the nature of the beast. That's football for you. It's all about saying the right things at the right time, putting on the right front at the right times. And yeah, I take, and this isn't an Arteta dig. This is just a general football comment. That's just for all football. You could probably find that comment from over 100 different managers in the last 5 years. It's just a generic media trained answer, brother. That's all that is. But so it's not a. Don't take it literally. Don't take it literally because it never worked that way. Next, first call on the show today. Shrey's joining us now. Shrey is a big Chelsea fan. What are you saying, buddy?
Hey Terry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, my friend. What do you want to say?
Okay. First thing I want to talk about is Emerson. I think I get why he said that Emerson's his priority because his first season there, Emerson, he's played with Emerson, he knows the system, and he'll be more of a backup. So I get why he's thinking that way, and I think it's good financially also. So I'm cool with that. I personally feel Digne, I mean, the guy can play, but I still feel like the long term effect, like it could be a financial loss because if he doesn't want to be there, next season, say if he's not the number one guy, then something, that way it could be a big problem. Second is I wanted to talk on Rudiger. I think this is I came on one of his streams and said this, if he could still end up staying, I wasn't worried initially. Now I think the deal will get done personally, because all the clubs that I've seen, apart from PSG, like I feel can really offer him the money. Like only PSG can offer him. Like I've heard the 250 plus 150. I think you had mentioned. Real Madrid were planning to give him 250 wages and 150 sign on bonus. I think that was the thing you had mentioned. Well,
Yeah.
apart from that, I don't, and even Real Madrid with their financial issues, I don't think can give him that. That's where I still feel the deal can get done. It's just a bit of negotiation. That's why it's very tight-lipped right now. So,
Yeah.
and thirdly, I want to talk on Arsenal also quickly because
You go.
right now, I think this is Arsenal's best shot to get this done. because next summer, Chelsea, City, Madrid, Barca, almost any club will be after this guy, because this is like, I think, based on wherever Haaland ends up, like everyone will be after this guy. So I think Arsenal are doing good. You know,
Yeah,
that's
listen, it's look, I get Arsenal fans' trepidation. I get rivals saying it isn't going to happen. What I love about this transfer, it goes against the mold. The mold is to
mm,
play down transfers, to act like they're never going to happen. Some of the mouthpieces. I'm even surprised, like certain mouthpieces of Arsenal that always spin stories in a positive way, always play down certain transfers. James Pearce does it for Liverpool Football Club. Simon Stone does it for Man United Football Club. We all have them. Arsenal have gone for a completely different approach with this, and I think that's very bold and brave of them. And Arsenal fans should actually be proud for once that a club has put in its money where its mouth is. Listen, straight top man for coming on and having your say. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you much indeed. CV19, you and Don Rob keep going. Bless up. Thank you very much. Listen, we're all going from strength to strength. We launched our first watch along in the studio last night, and look, it was quite a boring game, not much happening. More and more of them are going to continue. So thank you to everyone that signed up to our Twitch account. We're going to look to grow that and make that bigger and better, and keep striving forward with the Football Terrace to bring you as much quality content, and to keep, the biggest thing for me is to keep giving you a voice. The one thing we pride ourselves over, and I mean this with no intention to offend any other channel. Our channel is about allowing fans to have a voice. No one lets you phone in as much. No one lets you interact as much. Nobody lets you get involved as much as the Football Terrace does. And we want to maintain that, because as far as I'm concerned, you guys are the most important, and your opinions really do count. Tricks here, what you're saying? He goes, I'm a little behind, but here, how you doing, buddy? Look, I want to say thank you to you for the shout out on socials yesterday, because I see it a lot. I very rarely speak about transfers from someone's told me something. It's all very much Dean Jones or Pete O'Rourke, or I read this, or it's from the media already. Thank you very much for shouting me out and giving me my flowers. That means a great deal to me, because it means you're a man of honor, and I appreciate that. So thank you. Terry, do you have any connections to David Ornstein? Would be amazing if you could get him on the channel. I don't personally, and I don't really go out my way too often to speak to too many journalists, and I don't mean that rudely. It's if I stumble across them or get talking to them, we'll have a conversation. If not, I don't. But I hear you. Yeah, he's great, and whatever else. My view with a lot of the journalists is that, and it's a bit like with Fabrizio Romano. I've reached out to him before, but essentially what was fed back to me by him is, like, due to the commitments he has with certain people, he wouldn't be able to give us any exclusive news. So the news he would give us, he's already given elsewhere due to exclusive deals he's got elsewhere, which makes sense. Business. I respect that completely. Man's got to get paid, right? But my view is there's no point getting someone on to repeat the same story they just gave to another channel yesterday. I'd rather invest, because it costs a lot of money to get Fabrizio on. I would rather invest that money in another part of the terrace, and grow things elsewhere. So that's what it really comes down to. Unless I'm getting exclusive information, there's no point paying for it. There's no point paying for something that someone said yesterday on Sky, because we already know it. So yeah, that's what, and that's not a dig at all, by the way. That's me being very respecting the grind of that man and what he has achieved. And equally, I can't afford to pay him for exclusive information. It's far too expensive for me. Do you know what I mean? We haven't got 1.4 million followers doing like 1 million views a day. Like, we ain't got that. And listen, I respect the channels that can and fair. And if I did, by the way, I would. And trust me, if I had the money, if I found out what they were paying him to do exclusive, I'd double the damn thing. Do you know what I mean? I would love to have it, but that's just the nature of the beast. It's a bit like when people say, I'll get this YouTuber on, get that YouTuber. Do you know how expensive certain YouTubers are? Most of the big, like, football YouTubers now, with agents, you're talking £1,000 to appear on a channel. Unless if they're your mate or something, they are. But I'm not friends with a lot of these people. That's just because I'm not. So it's more about, I don't have £1,000 to pay them to come on. But there we go. Terry versus Fab, and I'll beat Fab in a boxing match. Like, yeah, that's one thing I know. I'm definitely better than him at. City Express is now on the channel. What you saying, bro?
So Terry, so with Arsenal, I'm not sure whether they'll get Vlahovic. Firstly, I think so. The Aubameyang situation is very tricky. I can't see someone taking him at 350 grand a week. So until they get that sorted, I can't see Vlahovic coming in. And I think so till the time they get rid of Aubameyang, I think so some club will pounce on him till that time. Secondly, when it comes, I don't know what is going on at Chelsea, but as a big club, I think so they should be doing much more. You have three centre backs for, or probably yeah, three centre backs that are running out of contracts. First team centre backs. I think so. Nicholas Sula is also running out of contract from Prime, and he's not going to renew it. So he could be one of the options which they could look at. But as a City fan, I've seen how my club is run. I expect better as a Chelsea fan if I was a Chelsea fan. So that's the two things that I'll say.
I hear you on that, bro. I hear where you're coming from. I really do. Thank you, City Express, for coming on. Long time no speak. Thank you. Let's have a look at some of these more comments that are coming through. Morning, Captain. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, someone just sent me a link, actually. So I was kind of reading that at the same time of what Mo Salah has said today around. Oh, the link's kind of died now. I don't know where that's gone. But Mo Salah saying that he's not asking for crazy stuff from Liverpool. It's very intriguing what's going on with Liverpool right now. I do find it intriguing with that stuff. Yeah, very intriguing indeed. Aubameyang was hard done. At least give him some game time. He deserves some respect, is what Mustafa has got to say. I don't think a lot of Gooners would agree with you there. But listen, everybody that's tuned in this morning, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Back with League Gunner later today. The Bet Victor show is on as well. Make sure you go and check out go check out our Twitch account and get signed up, because we've got two big watch-alongs coming later on this week. Man City versus we've got Man City versus Chelsea and the North London Derby coming to you. Full watch-alongs, match reactions as well. You need to be part of our Twitch family to get that done, so go and get yourself signed up. All that information is in our description below. Until next